After his 5th shift of the day, Noah Carter stood outside a private lounge, with chemical cleaner still soaking through his shirt and warehouse sweat drying on his neck. Through the door, he heard crystal glasses clinking like a celebration he was never invited to. Then he heard her voice, Madison Blake, his ex-wife, laughing loud enough to cut through the wall. She was telling her friends that the debt was handled, that all she had to do was say the right words, and Noah would work himself half to death. Then she said it, personal slave. Noah didn't move. Noah Carter had not always been a man who worked 5 jobs. There was a time when he held one steady warehouse position, came home at a reasonable hour, and slept without setting 3 alarms to make sure he didn't miss the next shift. But that was before the divorce, before the promise, and before Madison Blake turned his guilt into a payment plan. The marriage had lasted 4 years. The debt it left behind was already going on too. When they split, Madison told him the finances were tangled credit cards in both names, a car loan she couldn't cover, alone medical bills that had piled up during the last year of their marriage. She said she just needed time. Noah, still carrying the weight of a failed relationship he believed he could have saved, told her he would help until it was cleared. He meant it as a decent ending. He didn't realize it was only the beginning. By the time he was standing outside that lounge on a Thursday night, Noah's daily routine had become something most people wouldn't believe. He started at 4 in the morning at a distribution center on the east side of town, loading pallets until 8. From 9 to 1, he drove deliveries for a logistics company that paid by the route. Afternoons were split between janitorial work at a commercial building and restocking shelves at a hardware store. His 5th job, the one that usually ended around 10 at night, was cleaning floors and bathrooms at a fitness center 3 blocks from his apartment. 5 jobs, no days off. Every direct deposit, every cash payout, every bit of overtime, most of it funneled into a joint account that Madison still had access to, or sent directly to her through transfers she requested with increasing frequency. During the marriage, they had shared login credentials on nearly everything, and after the divorce, Noah never thought to change them. Madison still knew his password, still had his banking app synced to her phone, and Noah never questioned it because he trusted her. Noah didn't question it at first. He was too tired to question anything. When a man works 18 hours a day, his brain stops analyzing and starts surviving. He ate cheap, slept short, and kept moving because stopping meant thinking. And thinking meant confronting the possibility that none of this was leading anywhere. Madison called once or twice a week, sometimes more. Her voice always carried the same rhythm, soft at the start, urgent in the middle, and just fragile enough at the end to make Noah feel like walking away would be cruel. "It's just a temporary thing," she would say. "We're almost through the worst of it. Just a little more, and I'll be clear." Noah never asked to see the numbers. He trusted the woman he had once loved, and he believed the version of the story she kept telling him. The first crack appeared on a Tuesday afternoon. Noah was at a gas station after his delivery shift, trying to buy a sandwich and a bottle of water. His card was declined. Not the joint account card, his personal debit card tied to the smaller checking account he kept for his own essentials. He checked his phone and saw the balance, $11.43. That didn't make sense. He had deposited a $300 check from the hardware store just 5 days ago. He scrolled through the transactions and found a transfer he didn't remember authorizing. $270 moved to the joint account. Madison still had access to his personal banking through the shared credentials he had never updated, and she had moved the money without telling him. Then he looked at the joint account. There were charges he had never seen before, a spa service for $185, a restaurant bill for $212, a clothing purchase for $349. None of it looked like debt repayment. None of it looked like survival. Noah stared at the screen for a long time, standing in the gas station parking lot with his work boots untied and his back aching from 6 hours of lifting. He wanted to call Madison right then, He wanted to ask her what a $349 clothing purchase had to do with paying off credit card debt. But he didn't call. Instead, he drove to his next job and spent the rest of the afternoon scrubbing tile floors while the numbers repeated in his head like a song he couldn't turn off. When he finally brought it up 2 days later, Madison handled it the way she always did. Noah mentioned the charges carefully, almost apologetically, as if he were the one doing something wrong by looking. Madison's voice shifted immediately. "You're really going to nickel and dime me right now," she said. "After everything I've been through." Noah tried to explain that he wasn't accusing her of anything, he just wanted to understand where the money was going. Madison cut him off. "You promised, Noah. You looked me in the eye and said you'd help me get through this, and now you're checking receipts like I'm some kind of thief." She told him the spa visit was for a medical-related treatment. She said the restaurant was a work dinner she had to attend. She explained the clothing purchase is something she needed for job interviews. Every answer came fast, polished, and wrapped in just enough emotion to make Noah feel guilty for asking. By the end of the call, he was the one apologizing. That pattern repeated itself 3 more times over the next several weeks. Each time Noah noticed something strange, an unusually large withdrawal, a charge at a store that didn't match any kind of necessity, Madison had an answer ready. And each answer came with a reminder, "You promised." Those 2 words had become a leash. Noah had said them once in a moment of genuine compassion, and now they were being used to shut down every question he tried to ask. He started to feel like a machine, earning, transferring, with no right to ask where the fuel was going. The night everything shifted was the night Noah heard Madison's voice through the lounge door. He had just finished his 5th shift at the fitness center. His route home took him past a row of upscale spots. He never entered cocktail bars, wine lounges, places where people spent in one evening what Noah earned in a week. He wouldn't have stopped at all if he hadn't heard her laugh. It was a sound he knew well, sharp and confident, the kind of laugh Madison used when she was performing for an audience. Noah slowed down. The lounge had a side window partially open, and through it, he could hear her voice clearly. She was talking to a group of friends, and she was talking about him. "He still thinks it's about the debt," Madison said, and the table erupted in laughter. "I told him 6 months ago we were almost done, and he believed it. He believes everything." Someone asked how she managed it, and Madison answered without hesitation. "You just have to know what to say. A little guilt, a little gratitude, maybe cry once in a while. He works 5 jobs. 5. And he never checks anything because he's too exhausted to think straight." The laughter came again. Then someone called Noah, a name that Noah didn't fully catch. But Madison's response came through the window like a blade. "Honestly, he's basically my personal slave. And the best part is he thinks he's being a good man." Noah stood on the sidewalk with his cleaning uniform still damp and the smell of bleach on his hands. His chest tightened, his jaw locked. Every instinct told him to walk through that door, slam his hands on the table, and demand an explanation. But something deeper, something colder, held him in place. If he walked in now, Madison would flip the story. She would cry. She would tell her friends he was unstable, aggressive, bitter about the divorce. She would make him the villain before he could say a single word. Noah knew this because he had watched her do it before, to other people in other situations. Madison didn't lose arguments. She rewrote them. So Noah made a different choice. He didn't go inside. He didn't call her. He didn't send a message full of anger or pain. He walked back to his apartment, sat at the small table in his kitchen, and opened his laptop. For the first time in over a year, he pulled up every bank statement, every transfer record, every text message Madison had sent requesting money. He laid it all out like evidence because that's exactly what it was. He wasn't going to yell. He wasn't going to beg. He was going to do something Madison never expected from the man she called a slave. He was going to audit every dollar, every excuse, and every lie. and when he had the full picture, he was going to shut every door she had been walking through. That night, Noah didn't sleep because of exhaustion. He didn't sleep because of anger. He didn't sleep because for the first time in 2 years, his mind was fully awake. Noah spent the next 3 nights doing what he should have done from the beginning. After each final shift, he came home, sat at his kitchen table, and went through every financial record he could access. Bank statements going back to the month the divorce was finalized, transfer confirmations, text messages from Madison, dozens of them, each one requesting money with a different story attached. He lined them up in order matched the dates of her requests with the dates of the charges on the joint account, and started building a picture he had been too exhausted to see. The deeper he looked, the clearer it became. The debt Madison kept talking about, the one she said was almost paid off, had barely moved, but the spending on that account had gone up every single month. The morning after his 3rd night of digging, Noah was loading pallets at the distribution center when a co-worker named Garrett Walsh stopped him near the dock. Garrett was 10 years older, built like a man who had spent his whole life in warehouses, and he didn't talk much unless something needed saying. He looked at Noah and asked him a simple question. "When's the last time you took a day off?" Noah didn't answer because he couldn't remember. Garrett shook his head and said, "You look like a man running from something. But from where I'm standing, it looks more like something's running you." Noah thanked him and went back to loading, but the sentence stayed with him for the rest of the day, rattling around his head between deliveries and cleaning shifts. Something's running you. He had never thought of it that way. He had always believed he was the one choosing to work this hard, that the sacrifice was voluntary. Now he wasn't sure. Madison called that same evening right on schedule. Her voice was warm, almost sweet, like a person delivering good news. She told Noah she had been thinking about how hard he was working and how much she appreciated it. She said she felt guilty sometimes, knowing what he was going through. Then, without missing a beat, she told him she needed an extra $800 by Friday because a creditor had moved up a payment deadline. Noah felt the old reflex kick and the urge to say yes, to transfer the money to make the tension disappear. But this time, something new was sitting in his chest alongside that reflex. He had spent 3 nights staring at numbers that didn't lie, and those numbers had built a wall between who Madison said she was and what she was actually doing. So instead of agreeing, Noah asked her a question he had never asked before. "Can you send me the creditor's statement?" The silence on the other end lasted long enough for Noah to hear his own heartbeat. When Madison finally spoke, her tone had changed completely. The warmth was gone. In its place was something sharp, almost offended. "You're asking me for paperwork," she said. "After 2 years of me handling all of this on my own, while you just send money." Noah kept his voice steady. He told her he wasn't accusing her of anything. He just wanted to see the statement so he could plan the transfer properly. Madison's response came fast and hard. She told him that if he didn't trust her after everything they had been through, then maybe he never really cared about her at all. She brought up the divorce, the promises he made, the nights she spent alone, trying to sort out the mess he left behind. By the time she finished, the conversation had shifted entirely. It was no longer about the $800 or the creditor's statement. It was about Noah's failure as a man, as a partner, as someone who was supposed to keep his word. The line went dead before he could respond. Noah sat with the phone in his hand and recognized the pattern for the first time. Every question he had ever asked had ended this way. Madison didn't answer questions, she punished them. She made the act of asking feel like a betrayal, so that Noah would stop asking and go back to sending money in silence. It had worked for 2 years. It almost worked again tonight. Over the next 2 weeks, Noah continued working his 5 jobs, but something had shifted behind his eyes. He moved through his shifts the same way he always had, lifting, driving, cleaning, restocking. But his mind was no longer on autopilot. Every night he came home and added more to the file he was building. He pulled up the joint account's full transaction history and went line by line. What he found was not a debt being paid down, was a lifestyle being funded. There were recurring charges at a hotel downtown, not once or twice, but regularly on weekends, and sometimes midweek. There were purchases at department stores, charges at high-end restaurants, subscription services for things Noah had never heard of. He cross-referenced the dates of these charges with Madison's text messages and found a pattern that made his stomach turn.